Come along as we tour a Surfside Family Balcony Stateroom on board Star of the Seas, coming up on Talking Cruise. So welcome to our tour of Stateroom 11347 here on Star of the Seas. And come on in. So once again, welcome to Stateroom 11347 here on Star of the Seas. And again, this is a family Surfside balcony stateroom. So when you first come into this particular room, we do have the bathroom located here on the right side. I'll show you that in just a moment. We do have this touch screen here, and this will give you access to the temperature in the room, so you can obviously go up and down to your preference. You do also have some presets for lighting. So there's a morning setting, which will have just a few of the lights on. There's an evening setting that it gives you a more just some ambient lighting. There's movie mode, which turns the majority of the lights off in the room, and then there is sleep mode, which turns off everything except for a couple of sconces near the bed. And then you do also have a couple of presets here as well. So you've got this one here, which will shut everything off. The middle one will just give you part-way illumination, and then you've got your full let's get ready to rumble illumination. And right below that controller, you do have some light switches, basically covering the front portion of the room, the main living area, and then also for the bathroom that's right here to the right. Now just past that controller into the room a little bit, you do have this full-length mirror, which is always a very welcome thing to have on a cruise ship. And this is not just a mirror, it actually opens up, and there is some storage in here. So not a very deep shelving system, but you do have several shelves. These would be great for things that you want to have, maybe not necessarily always available, but close by when needed, maybe heading out the door, hats, sunscreen. That would be a great place for that sort of stuff. And then you do also have the safe for the room in here. Very tiny. You're not going to put much in there except some of your more valuable things. Now as we do make our way into the room, just over here to the right side, we do have the rest of the storage. So this opens up into two sections. So over here on this section, you have some spots for some hanging clothes, and then you could put some bags or some other items up in this area. And then below that, there are a series of, of 4 wire baskets that you can use to put things that you want to have more easy access to. And then over here on the other side, more hanging space for maybe some longer items, and then a little bit of storage there on the bottom. And then right beside the cupboards, we do have the sofa in the room, which this particular room will also accommodate a third, so this can actually be made up into a third bed. And then right across from the sofa, we do have the console desk makeup area. So over here, you do have a nice mirror that is backlit. I know a lot of people will appreciate that. A pretty good size workspace, so lots of room if you need to lay out any papers, work at a computer and whatnot. You've got lots of room for that. As far as your power options, you do have, again, light switches here. This would be for the lamp as well as for the mirror. You do have a European outlet, which I do recommend to bring a adapter if you're sailing in domestic US. For that, you can utilize that space a little bit better for you. Over here, we do have a USB-C and a USB-A power charge, and then over here, just a standard US outlet. Now, storage below, so we pull out this chair. There is a drawer right here, which is plenty good size for any things that you want to keep for work purposes. Right beside that, we have a bank of 3 drawers, with the top one having your hairdryer and your box of Kleenex. Glad to see that that is in here. And then the one below is a little bit deeper. And then the last one, the same as the second. And there is yet another one right here. So we've got some more space. And then directly below that is the mini fridge in the room. Just enough for a couple of late night nibbles or maybe some drinks that you want to keep cool. And that's pretty much it, quite on the small side. And there is also this small table that actually can be moved, and you could bring this closer to where the sofa is. So if you want a little bit of extra workspace, you can use that in the room. It's great because it actually opens up the floor space. It doesn't have any table to sort of trip over, especially at nighttime, so that's a great move on the part of Royal Caribbean. Now continuing to work our way down towards the bed. So right now they have it set up as 2 singles. These 2 beds can be put together and made into a queen size bed if that is your preference. On this side of the bed we do have a light sconce, which does have a light switch as well as a USB, standard USB port. With the current layout, there is the phone and a night table in the middle, but if you do have the beds together, this will be moved over to the other side of the bed. And then over on the left side of the bed, again, we do have the light sconce with the same power switch and USB power slot, but there is also a standard US power slot here as well, and redundant light switch for the room. I do wish, and I've said this over and over, why skimp? Why does one person get power and the other side does not? Just put another power. It can't cost that much money on the other side of the bed. You never know what someone's preference is as far as the side of the bed they want to sleep on. They should be able to have full access to power and so forth. Really, they got to stop doing this. And right across from the bed or beds, you do have the flat screen TV. It's definitely a good size, pretty much what we're accustomed on most of the new ships. And this will give you a service of video on demand, live television, some basic ship information and so forth. Royal Caribbean does have a pretty good selection of programming that you can watch without an additional charge. Not as good as some other cruise lines I could mention, but it is pretty good. It gives you enough to keep you entertained throughout your voyage. And then tucked in over here on the left side of the television, there's this sort of inset in the wall, and there's these little shelves, which again are good for things that you need quick access to. And then right on the bottom, there is another power port. So you have a USB standard, USB-C port. This would be a good spot maybe to put your phone or something like that to charge, or a small iPad, tablet, and so forth. Okay, now we're going to make our way back into the bathroom. So let's have a look in here. Not huge by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, quite a bit smaller than I was hoping for. I think my last cruise on an Icon class, which was Icon of the Seas, my bathroom, I believe, was a little bit larger than this. So although it's small, it is put together very nicely. I do like the finishes in here, and it's very much efficient layout, which it really needs to be. So over here you do have the basin with your little soap dish. Not that deep, but it's definitely a decent size. Not a whole lot of counter space, however. Now on one side of the mirror we do have a series of shelves, and there's a little hook on the bottom here as well. And then across from the mirror next to the toilet there's a series of some other shelves. So pretty decent storage, even though the room and the footprint is pretty small. Now on the left side below the sink we do have this sort of pull-out drawer. I'm not really sure the full purpose of this, but you can definitely store some things in there. And then below the sink itself there's a series of small shelving for your storage, and then you do have your trash receptacle over here to the left. Now with the shower itself, love the fact that it is glass enclosed, and it's actually the full width of the bathroom itself, so that's very nice. The shower actually looks like the star here in this particular setup. But what I actually really like is the way they've hinged this door. So the door actually hinges into the bath shower area, so it's not taking up a whole lot of space inside, because there really isn't a whole lot of space inside. So you see it's folded there inside, and then when you close it, it just hinges back into position. So that's a really great design. Inside the shower itself, on one side we do have a couple of storage bins, great for your puffs or toiletries that you want to bring from home. The shower itself, it's a removable wand setup that it has an adjustment here along this pole. You got your standard water pressure as well as your temperature gauge, so that's pretty standard. And then very rudimentary, but this is what they're doing now on pretty much all cruise ships, is your refillable hair body wash, one purpose solution. Now inside the shower itself, this is something that's pretty unique to Icon classes. They do have this storage up here with the towels right inside the shower. There's a couple of hooks in here. Again, I'm not sure what I would put there because you probably would get some spray. But below that, and something that I know a lot of people love, is a seat in the shower. So if that's something that you like to kind of sit and linger a little bit in the shower, great spot if you need to shave your legs and whatnot. Perfect spot for that. So lastly, that takes us to the balcony in this room. First thing I will point out, what you're finding more and more on cruise ships, is there's a safety latch, so if you're concerned about your kids getting out to the balcony, you can definitely engage this. When it's in the red, it means it's locked. Green means it's ready to go, and open as normal. Now, one thing I really loved about this room, and this was actually assigned to me, I was on a guarantee for a neighborhood balcony, so I could have gotten everything from Central Park or any room here in Surfside, but this is actually on deck 11. This is the last balcony that you can actually get. So I have this view towards the back of the ship. So I'm looking over the kids' water park here in Splash Away Bay. But when we're at sea and not here in Port Canaveral, we'll get a really nice view out to the water from up here. And the balcony itself is a really nice size. It's actually, I think, quite deeper than a traditional balcony, maybe for the ocean view. And another really nice feature is because it is this last room, there's glass sort of wrapping around. So if you're sitting in a chair, you actually have this view out through the glass to the water as well. And then, as I said, you've got the view down to Surfside.
One other point that I did want to mention is that although the view was fantastic from this stateroom, 11347 is located quite far from the elevators. So if you have any mobility issues or just don't generally want to walk, it is a very good distance back and forth from the elevator to your stateroom.